I love the sound of the birds singing. I believe they sing not because they have a song, but because they have a story to tell. I too have a story to tell. I invite you to join me on a journey, one of a privileged white girl who experienced a blind awakening. I didn't know just how many privileges I have had in life because of being white in America. Early on this semester, I felt uncomfortable focusing on the black-white binary. I had no idea just how much I didn't know about racism in this country. I began to realize that I'm comfortable with diversity when it comes to immigrants and other international people. But I wasn't comfortable with exploring the black-white binary because I was less familiar with it. I grew up in a mostly white town in a fairly rural part of Pennsylvania. I didn't have the opportunity to interact much with black people growing up. So even though I didn't consider myself or my family racist, I often felt uncomfortable interacting with black people and would try too hard to be nice. At the beginning of this semester, I wasn't even sure whether to say African American or black, but I've discovered that black is a more inclusive term for dark-skinned people. Until recently, I didn't know how much race has saturated our society and the effects of systematic oppression on people of color. Now I see how experiencing microaggressions on a daily basis turns into a large wound after a while. I started this course feeling uncomfortable with the notion of white supremacy. Well, I don't subscribe to that, I would say to myself. But the effects of white supremacy often remain hidden to white people in America. Even Newt Gingrich has said, "The objective reality is that virtually no one who is white understands the challenge of being black in America." I felt defensive in class when I was grouped into the white category because of its association with white supremacy. In one of my early reflection papers, I wrote, "As a white person who is trying to fight against white supremacy and not be seen as a typical white person, I find it hard to be lumped into the white category with everyone else who may or may not be actively trying to fight the effects of white supremacy." But with time, I learned not to take things so personally, and I began to see the hidden and strategic effects of institutionalized white supremacy. It's pretty bad when the white South African graduate student can see the amount of white supremacy present in America.
I'm gonna put myself out there now and say that the context that I come with as a child, one could say, of an apartheid era South Africa, is there are probably a lot of things that I cannot recognize, but one thing that I can recognize is white supremacy. I can see it. I'm familiar with it. I know what it looks like, and there's a lot of white supremacy here. And white supremacy doesn't have to be the thing of a bunch of people on the back of a pickup truck with guns. It just has to do with the fact that certain voices are more important than others. It has to do with the fact that certain voices are included and other voices aren't. Now,
some of you may wonder why I, a white person, am against the dominant ruling of whites in America. I'm against it because its foundation is discrimination. Understanding and acknowledging the systematic racism and white supremacy in the U.S. is the basis for understanding much of the discrimination that occurs today. Take a moment to read these facts and figures from the documentary 13. Lulu, 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 Statistics like these cannot be ignored. They really contextualize the systematic discrimination that exists. But why should we care? When we are faced with truth, we have a choice how we will respond. I chose to acknowledge and apologize for my prior ignorance. I wrote to my instructors in a reflection paper. I want to apologize for my dense ignorance and blindness that I'm just now uncovering. I thought I understood, at least somewhat, the lives of disadvantaged and oppressed peoples. But I don't know what it is like to experience these effects day in and day out. I would like to comment briefly on the Black Lives Matter movement. As the film 13th mentions, Black Lives Matter is a way of changing how this country understands human dignity. Whose life is valuable? All lives matter if Black lives matter. It's about rehumanizing all of us. But as a white person, I need to be conscientious about my attempts to be an ally to Black people and others who are discriminated against. How can I support their cause without taking anything away from what they're working toward? When I asked this question at the Every 28 Hours production last fall, a Black man suggested that we show up and shut up. Be present in solidarity with their cause, but let them do the talking. Our job is to listen and show support. Martin Luther King Jr. wisely said that we need to shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society, and that the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered until this shift occurs. The arts can help play a role in meaning-making and caring for individuals. One of the most unique and poignant aspects of the arts is their ability to encourage and affect various emotions. The arts help us connect back to our common humanity. Through the arts, we learn how to imagine and create change, as well as how to have compassion and empathize with others. It is up to us to enact change. The time is now. As Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. I would like to leave you with some questions to reflect on. Is love required to reduce racism and injustice, or is tolerance and respect for others enough? How can we learn to love more, even if we don't like the people we're trying to love? How can we be an ambassador for our cause in a way that people will respond to? And what will you do to make the world a better place? What story will you tell?